I'm Luann Saraga Walters, and this is The Philanthropy Show. For centuries all over the world, wars and genocide have forced people to flee to safer countries.
Oh, God!
It's still happening today. In the United States alone, more than 150,000 refugees arrived or became eligible for refugee services in the past 5 years. Last year alone, we received refugees from 97 different countries, with over 70% resettling in Florida. Many Tampa Bay residents don't even realize that Tampa Bay is one of over 400 resettlement sites for refugees in the United States. I know that I didn't. I just found out several years ago when I was working for a church that was working with a nonprofit organization in a very small way as part of its program to help the refugees who were here in Tampa Bay get their U.S. citizenship, obtain their U.S. citizenship for permanent resettlement. That organization is the Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services, and with us today we have its COO, Anne-Marie Winter, and also this wonderful young man, 29-year-old Z, as we call him, Zabiullah, who is from Afghanistan, a recent refugee. He's been in the country now for 6 months. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The courage to share your story. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for being here.
It is our pleasure.
Well, this is a rare opportunity for us to really be able to dive into this issue. I know this is something that you have worked with for years. Your background is extensive. I think even your parents were refugees. Is that correct?
My dad was a refugee from the former Yugoslavia.
Wow. So this is not only your professional, but definitely a personal aspect for you.
Absolutely.
Well, tell me a little bit about this with your backgrounds. I'm gonna start with Anne-Marie for the process of really understanding this problem. But can we talk a little bit about what this is and how many refugees are in Tampa Bay? How many are we talking about in the U.S.? Is this an annual occurrence? What are we looking at?
So there's about 16 million refugees around the world at any one given time.
Wow.
That is men, women, and children who have been displaced outside of their countries because of a fear of persecution, because of their race or their religion or what they've been doing politically in their home countries. And they may have been tortured or persecuted, and they've had to leave. They've had to go to another country. And after maybe several years or decades lingering in refugee camps or urban dwellings, they have the opportunity to come to a country like the United States and have permanent resettlement. The U.S. has resettled millions of refugees since the program started in the 1950s. It was formalized in 1980, and more than 3 million refugees have come to the United States. Florida, as it happens, has the largest number of refugees in the United States.
Wow.
Florida, as a state, has welcomed more refugees on an annual basis than Canada, Australia, and New Zealand combined.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very welcoming state. There's lots of job opportunities here. There's already a very diverse culture. The majority of refugees that come to Florida are primarily from Cuba and Latin America. But in the Tampa Bay area, it's pretty diverse. It's like a mini United Nations with refugees from Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, the former Yugoslavia, some countries in Africa, including Congo and Uganda. If you're watching the news and seeing where people are fleeing, where there's strife, a couple of years from now, they'll be coming to the United States.
Wow. Well, and you're talking about persecution, and Z, you and I, he goes by Z. That makes it easier for us because Zabiullah is a beautiful name, but not everybody can say it. We're used to John or Joe. Well, tell me your story, because I know that you received some persecution because you actually helped the American military. You were a translator, right?
Yeah, thank you for the chance to give me to tell me my story. And my name is Zabiullah. My last name is Ayubi. But because of some reason, because of some reason when I get my passport back in Afghanistan, in my country, so they didn't put my first name. They didn't put my last name, excuse me. They didn't put my last name. And when I start my paperwork to come to the United States as a refugee for the SIV program, by the SIV program, and they put my first name as a last name, and they didn't put my first name as a first name. They put instead if in you, which is first name and unavailable. It takes from that.
First name unavailable.
Yeah, and then I have to go with this name until I get my citizenship, and I hope I change it one day. And I worked for the United States Marine Corps for over 3 years. It's almost like 3 years and 4 months. Back in Afghanistan, it was like in Helmand for the United States Marine Corps, actually, not for the Army.
Okay.
It was a good, I really enjoyed it, and I was like part of my, it's an honor for me to work with the United States and also work for my country. Actually, I was like a bridge for these two countries, like Afghanistan and the United States. And like culturally, like giving some information to the United States military, like how they should communicate, how they should like communicate with the people, with the Afghan soldiers.
So they can understand the country that they're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and communicate more with the people. Tell me about your tribe too, Hazara?
Yeah, my tribe is named Hazara, which is 1,000 in Persian language, or in Dari.
1,000?
Yeah, 1,000.
Okay.
It's a very big story behind this, but we're not 1,000 right now. We're over millions of people right now in Afghanistan, and we really like our religion is Shia, like Islam, Shia Islam. So we had like a lot of problems during the Taliban period, and my tribes like really suffered in that regime.
Because
and
your
they
tribe, the Hazara, actually fought the Taliban.
Yeah, they fought
trying
against
to prevent
the Taliban.
them from coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know the exact time, but it was like between 1988 or 1994, something like that.
Yeah.
And they invaded to my country. They killed a lot of people. They put my father in jail for 3.5 years with no reason. My father was a driver for a organization. They're supposed to like give food, stuff for the people. They were in poverty in the suburbs.
And you were a boy.
I was a boy, like I was like 9 years old or something. I still remember. It's like a flashing in my mind still when I'm talking about my country, like that. The dead bodies all over the city, the flash and all. Like it's still like a nightmare for me. Sometimes when I'm like sleeping, the same thing.
You know, and I said
it.
this before, but I really thank you for being on the show, because I think that a lot of times we in America, we watch the news, but it's still out there. It's not real enough, you know, and you're a real human being sitting here to be able to tell your story and to share that. And I think that's very important, so thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Wow. Anne-Marie, you work over the refugee program or department within the Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services, but it's very vast. So if you could just give us, I don't know if you can capsulize what your organization does, but in a few words, tell us about Gulf Coast.
Sure. So Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services, our mission is to help individuals and families in times of need. The mission is purposefully broad so that we can help a wide array of people. And we really provide holistic services to children who are being abused and neglected, to the elderly, to refugees, the disabled. We have employment programs. We have specific programs for the Jewish community. But Gulf Coast is a secular organization that helps more than 30,000 individuals every year in 37 counties of Florida. We're based in Clearwater, and the bulk of our work is actually done in the Tampa Bay area, Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough counties, but we have a very active presence in Broward and Miami-Dade, and then scattered throughout the state as well. So we're really a statewide organization that is trying to educate and empower people.
Well, thank you for doing that too. And look at the incredible people that you get to work with.
Absolutely.
Wow. You know, I want to talk a little bit, and we're going to dive more into this too in the second segment because we're coming up on our break, but the basics of this problem. Is this all surrounding warring countries? How do we get to is there a possibility of getting to the root of people being displaced from their own countries?
That's a great
huge
and
question.
very complex question. There have been refugees since before the time of Christ. There has been war and suffering since before the time of Christ. And we haven't been able to find a way to deal with warring factions where human lives are not considered collateral damage. And that's really what they are. You see the situation in Syria now, where millions of people are fleeing because of tension with the Syrian government. That is happening all around the world. I think we would be naive to think that there will be a resolution to the world's problems. What the resettlement program tries to do is to help those who are in most need, those who will never be able to return home, those who cannot stay where they fled, and come to a place like the United States. That's really the only way that they and their families can survive. And Z is a perfect example of that.
Well, and you had also mentioned that there is a presidential limit, amount, number is that an annual number?
Yeah, so each year the president reports to Congress and provides what's called a presidential determination, and determines, based on discussions with the State Department, Department of Homeland Security, how many refugees the United States can admit every single year. And that number varies. After 9/11, the numbers were down in the 20,000s. During the Clinton administration, it was up to 110,000. Last year, close to 70,000 refugees were resettled to the United States from 46 different countries on 4 continents.
Wow. Wow. Well, we're going to take our first break. When we come back in part 2, I want to talk more really about what the challenges are around that. What are some successes that you're seeing? How do we, as a community, how can we help with the refugees who are right here with us? And what can be done more maybe to get this awareness out? And Z, I want to tell you something. So it just struck me that you said when you were coming over with your passport, because they didn't know your first name was Zabiullah, they put FNU, first name unknown. And now that's listed on your passport as your first name, Fanu.
Fanu.
Well, I was born without a middle name, NMI, no middle initial, but nobody calls me Nami. So I want to see you get a first name too, or go back to pick your own, right? Get it. We're going to take a short break with the Philanthropy Show, but we'll be right back with more.
This show sponsored in part by
My Paper Pusher. Consider it done.
I'm Samantha Abraham with My Paper Pusher with your financial tip of the week. How do you set up accounting software like QuickBooks for your organization? When first creating the QuickBooks file or cleaning up its current structure, it's vital to understand its purpose and place in the organization. QuickBooks is a reflection of the entire organization, so it is important to hold a meeting with each part of your organization to review their goals and ensure the reports necessary and most useful to each user of the data can be created from the accounting software. During the meeting, evaluate the nonprofit's mission, programs, revenue sources, reports, current chart of accounts, budget, accounts receivable, and accounts payable, and think about how each aspect can be improved. You'll be able to identify how the data entered in your accounting software needs to be presented to provide valuable information to all users of the data. By understanding and communicating the necessary reporting, the accounting staff and treasurer can design the accounting software to best fit the organization as a whole. I'm Samantha Abraham with My Paper Pusher, where you can consider it done.
Follow the Philanthropy Show on Facebook for behind-the-scenes action, polls, and commentary.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show. We're talking today about an issue that's been going on for decades, and many of us in the Tampa Bay area, in fact all over the United States, probably are not aware of the significance of that, and that is the spotlight on refugees in America. We have Z, our 29-year-old, wonderful, incredible guy from Afghanistan who has been here now for 6 months, and Anne-Marie Winter, who's the COO at Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services. And we began exploring a little bit in the first segment about this issue, but I want to kind of really go into the tangible reality of it. So, and you are living it firsthand, and you can give us and share with us some of that. First, let's go into kind of the myths that we have surrounding this. How do people see, what are the biggest or most misunderstood aspects of the situation of refugees in America?
That's a great question, and there are several. I think the biggest one is that refugees coming to America are illegal. I think that there's a perception that they have entered the country through undocumented means, which clearly is not the case. Z and the hundreds of thousands of other refugees that have preceded him and will come to the United States go through a very extensive interview and screening process, so that every aspect of their background is fully vetted, as well as any medical conditions that they may have. And so to come to the United States, Z had to clear an enormous amount of obstacles to ensure that he would not be a danger to the United States. So refugees coming here are legal. They have access to become citizens within 5 years, and that's a very important distinguishing factor from others who come to the United States through undocumented means.
Wow.
I think another myth is that refugees are a drain on our welfare system. That is hardly the case. Refugees have a parallel set of benefits that they have access to for a very relatively short period of time, up to 8 months of medical assistance, sometimes cash assistance depending on the size of the family and the needs of the family, and a little bit of startup money. But refugees are expected to get jobs within 30 days of coming to the United States.
Well, and I just want to jump in for a
Sure.
second because you brought something to mind. Z, you were a translator working with the American military, the Marines, and your English is fantastic.
Yeah,
but I know
thanks.
that there are a lot of refugees who come who don't speak any English. So the challenge is in that 5-year time frame too, learning a new language, putting that to use, doing the studying, trying to pass your U.S. I don't think I could pass that test. I've seen it, for the U.S. Constitution to get your U.S. citizenship. And what happens to those refugees who, after that 5-year time frame, don't have the U.S. citizenship?
Well, let me first say that refugees are remarkably resilient.
Amen.
And they prosper and thrive in the United States. They get any job that they can, whether it's in the hospitality industry, the construction industry. Refugees who have skills like Z might have a slightly easier time because his English is fluent and he is able to communicate.
Very good.
So refugees, for the most part, are incredibly resilient and proud and want to become Americans. And so going to a naturalization ceremony, I would encourage every single American to do that because the people that are there...
That's when they're sworn in.
That's when they're sworn in. That's when they've passed that test that you and I maybe would not be able to. That's when they've been able to demonstrate their English proficiency and they pledge allegiance to the United States and become citizens.
Now, please ask you to place your right hand over your heart and recite the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
It is an amazing experience because, after all, the United States is a nation of immigrants, and that's something that I believe strongly that we should uphold.
Yeah. Z, you've been here for 6 months.
Yeah.
How has that been for you?
I don't know how to start it. For me, it's it's not an easy life to start in a second country.
And your family's still in Afghanistan.
And my parents are still in Afghanistan. I'm still single, we use family anyway. And it's a kind of suffer for me to think about my family and also to get a job. The job that I have right now is like a night shift job. It's not a good job it's not good for our health even. Being awake all for 8 hours during the night, and then the thing is, it's the thing what I want, I cannot like see myself a successful guy in this 6 months. Like, I'm trying to fixing myself. I'm trying to like set up myself with the situation and everything. But it's not easy, believe me. Like I'm trying to start studying or something. I like to apply for a college or something. But I tried a lot, you know, like working at night and all these problems, you know, like thinking too much about my family, about my country. These are the things that not let me to do what I want to do.
Just because you're here doesn't mean that life has changed. It means you're in a different place. You don't have the persecution and the threat against your life that you had in Afghanistan, but your family's still there. Like you said, your mom and dad.
Yeah, my
Absolutely.
mom, my brothers, my sisters, they're all in Afghanistan.
Your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, like I don't know the process, how long it takes, and when I can apply for them. As far as I know, like after I get my citizenship, I can apply for my family, but it's too long. As you see the media nowadays in the internet, like every day,
Do you have
the
any way of
situations.
contacting them? Do you have any way of
Yeah, I
communicating
use a
with them?
Weber or like Facebook sometimes
Okay.
to chat with my family, to call. But you know, like it's still like they are still in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like that they're really like trying to do something for my family to bring them or to pull them out from Afghanistan somehow to another country. It doesn't matter, United States or any country, they feel safe. Specifically that I work with the United States and our tribe. Like there's a lot of games
tribe,
going
the
on in my
Hazara.
country. Yeah. Like this is not like easy to say it. It's a very big story. Afghanistan is like they have a lot of problem, like tribal problem, religion. There's a two big religion in Afghanistan, like Shia and Sunni. They still have the problem.
Right.
They don't accept each other.
Have
That's
you?
what
Can I ask you this? And if you don't want to answer that, that's fine. But I'd like to present it to you. Have you run into any obstacles in the United States because your faith is Muslim?
Not yet. Like,
Well, that's good. That's good, and I
yeah,
hope it
like
stays that way.
I have a lot of friends, and like I say this, they ask me most of the time where are you from. Like they think that I'm Asian or I'm from China or some other places because the way I look like. My country has several tribes, so like Aryan races, Asian races, and different races in my country too. But I've never chased such a thing. If someone's like has a different behavior because I'm an Afghan.
Good.
They say, "Whoa, you're Afghan?" Yeah, yeah. I
Most
am
people are
Afghan.
probably curious because we don't know enough about
Right.
the world outside of the United States
Yeah, that's
to
the
know.
thing.
Yeah.
That's why today I came here to share the information. Yeah, this is Afghan.
Yes, I'm so glad that you did. So glad that you did. What, you bring up a great point, Z, in saying that if our community could just be more aware, what is it that we can do? Are there certain things that are really priorities to engage the community, to have this awareness, to help the refugees like Z who are here?
Sure. Gulf Coast started helping refugees back from the time when Holocaust refugees came to the United States. So it's very much ingrained in our organization to be a place of refuge and education and empowerment for refugees. And so we try and partner with communities around the state of Florida to help refugees. I think education, number one, people being open and aware of refugees in their community, I think is really important. And then in terms of kind of everyday issues, affordable housing is a critical need, just like it is for the everyday American. Being able to have sustainable housing and housing security is really important for refugees. So we want landlords, we invite landlords to be open to having refugees in their houses. Have you ever tried to rent or buy a home? You have to go through, you have to provide, there's a really big process. Refugees who have been here for less than 6 months, they do have a social security number, they do have some form of identification, but they don't have tax returns.
No history.
They may not have a W-2 or a pay stub, but they are hard-working people who deserve a chance. And so we encourage employers to be open to hiring refugees because they're incredibly hardworking. very motivated. We would like landlords to provide affordable housing for our refugees. Refugees have a great track record of paying their rent, establishing credit, buying homes, and eventually living the American dream.
Do you know, and I love that you just actually said that last sentence because, and you touched on it before, about how much they want to work.
Right.
Because Z, where you've come from, you had told me before the show, you've seen your tribe go through this wartime twice. You've seen people die that you knew. And I can see how coming to a new space and saying, here's a new lease on life, to use the phrase, but to go forward and say, now I want to try to do something, as a, you know, it's a much stronger desire to live, to have that safety zone, because you've experienced something that we just don't in many places in the U.S., in many demographics. It's, I admire your tenacity.
I want to bring something like the first day when I start working for the United States, my goal was like to helping my country. Like every human being, they have ambitions, they have goals for the future, not for himself or herself, for their country. Like for my country, I want peace, I want serenity for my tribe, for everyone, for all Afghans. That was the reason I really like tried to do something. When I heard the withdrawal, I started this process. Because they're like, the Taliban, they have a very big connection. They're very big, they're strong in Afghanistan. And they can track easily people. That was the reason I came, and I really appreciate the United States for giving me this chance. Like,
So if the Taliban had known, they would have been able to find you. Is that what
yeah,
you were saying?
if the Taliban
And because
found
of the
me,
work
yeah.
you did with the American
Yeah,
military
because-
and because of your tribe, the Hazara, the Taliban would not have wanted.
So the first thing for the Taliban is that I work with the United States, and I was in a lot of missions and a lot of operations during my job. And the second thing, my tribe
Yeah.
and my religion. These are all the issues. Like, these are a very, very big challenge all over like Afghanistan for all Hazaras. Not Afghanistan, even in Pakistan too. You hear like Hazara genocide or suicide bombers are coming to their mosque, and then they're really suffering in Pakistan and Afghanistan. They get kidnapped, they get killed.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow. And that's the, thank you again for being so real and being here for it. We do have to take one more break. And then when we come back, though, you had touched on a little bit about maybe wanting to go to school, something. I'd like to know what do you see? What do you, I mean, if everything were possible, I'd love to know what it is that Z wants to do and find out where you want to go with that. And then we'll also do our little truth or care that Anne-Marie and I can talk about, which is why you do what you do. So we're going to take a short break on the Philanthropy Show, thanking very much our studio sponsor, the Nonprofit Leadership Center of Tampa Bay, and we'll be right back.
And now a word from our studio sponsor.
Hi, I'm Jen Dodd, Education Manager at the Nonprofit Leadership Center, and I have a couple of quick tips for nonprofits about choosing a Twitter handle, which is basically your Twitter profile. You could also think of it like your page name if you're more familiar with Facebook. A Twitter handle is limited to no more than 15 characters, so you can imagine that our full legal name, Nonprofit Leadership Center of Tampa Bay, would not work as a Twitter handle. We've already established NLCTB as a shortened form in our messaging and marketing, so it's something our students, donors, and friends are familiar with and would be likely to search for when trying to find us on Twitter. So that's how we chose our handle. Does your nonprofit already have a nickname or abbreviation? Consider using that. If not, you'll have to do a little bit of brainstorming to stay within that 15-character limit. Maybe you can make a Twitter handle out of what you do. Boil your mission down into a couple of words. For instance, if your nonprofit is all about prenatal care, how about healthy babies as a handle? That's just 13 characters. If your nonprofit is part of a national organization, consider adding your service area's name or initials to help your friends and donors differentiate you from other accounts. Notice how Meals on Wheels and Dress for Success incorporate their service areas into their handles. In fact, choosing your Twitter handle could be a great team building exercise for your staff. Brainstorming how to tell people what you do in 15 characters or less will certainly give your staff a better feel for and connection to your mission. We'll look forward to seeing you here at the Nonprofit Leadership Center, where we educate, empower, and connect.
The Philanthropy Show is on demand every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at both thephilanthropyshow.com and YouTube/WatchMVVP TV.
We're going to talk a little bit about forward-looking and it's kind of that heart space connection as well. So Z, you've been through so much in your life, and I love that you said in this last segment, I want peace for my country. And you know, we kind of grow up going, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do I want to be an astronaut? Do I want to be the president? Do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be a lawyer? And you're saying I want peace for my country. And I love that you said that. And I want to ask you too, now that you're here, do you have, what are some dreams that you have? And I mean, what would you, if I could just wave my pen as a magic wand and say, poof, what would you want to do? Do you know what your heart's passion is?
Oh, well, every human being, they have goals, and for the future, they have their dream. As I said, my biggest dream is peace and for my country, and for life. Like, I really like to be a doctor or something.
Excellent.
To helping some people, because I saw a lot of things in my country. So I want to be someone to help someone. So doesn't matter like what is his tribe, what is his religion, what is his country, no matter what. We're all humans. That's what I like to do, something.
Love
to
that.
be someone helping a human. Especially in this 21st century, especially like United States. That's why I like United States. Every immigrant, like in the United States, is a very big country for a very big dream. For all over the world. That's why everyone wants United States.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the Gulf Coast Jewish family. They're really helping a lot of people through this process. I know it's not easy to get to the United States because of all these things happening, because of the security, because of these issues. But I know this is a place your dream come true, if you really want it.
I'm going to hold your dream in my heart for you too. So we're going to vision that together for you. That was beautiful. Thank you, Z.
You're welcome.
So Anne Marie, in a slightly different vein, we have a segment that we call Truth or Care, and that is for folks who are in the nonprofit world about what the definition of philanthropy means to you. Why do you do what you do? Not from necessarily a headspace, the intellectual, but what is that? And I know you've got a lot of personal ties here as well, so I'll turn that over to you.
Absolutely, and I just want to thank Z for being such an amazing individual, because I can't say it any better than he did, actually. So my dad was a refugee. My dad came to the United States 54 years ago with $1 in his pocket, and he worked very, very hard. There were no services at the time to help him or his family members. And he achieved so much. He became a successful businessman, he got married, he had 2 daughters, and he really lived the American dream, and he still does today. And that's why I do what I do. I do it because I see every refugee, I see my dad in every refugee. I see the potential there. And if I can play some small role in that, and our organization, Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services, can play a role in that, that's what I want to do with my life.
I love it. You guys have just made me cry like 3 times during this show. I think it's beautiful. Thank you both for being on the show. This is a very powerful, and feel free to spread this around, and you guys too, please spread this link around. I think this is one of those spotlight issues that we really want to shed light on, to just get out into the community. Like I said, I lived in Tampa Bay for how many years before I even knew that this was a site in the U.S. for refugees to come in. So thank you for doing what you do,
Thank you,
Anne Marie,
Luann.
and thank the Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services. And Z, I love you. You are awesome.
Thank
You are
you.
just fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
And the
it's
next
my
time you
pleasure.
talk with your parents and your brothers and sisters on Facebook or you communicating with them, tell them that they've got a lot of Americans who are rooting for them.
Yeah,
Try to
definitely.
get 'em over.
I will say from your hi from your side.
Yeah. Thank you both again. And that does it for this edition of the Philanthropy Show. Be sure to check out all of our past shows in the past shows tabs and join us next Monday for another show. Take care.
Do you have an idea for the Philanthropy Show? Contact us via our website or email us at tps@myvideovoice.com.